it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another day of Eldritch Moon spoilers. So we have 9 brand new cards to take a look at today. We have some interesting ones, actually a lot of mythics today. So let's jump in and get going. We're going to start off with Lashweed Lurker. This costs 8. It's an Eldrazi horror, 5/4, but it does have an emerge cost of a green, a blue, and 5. And when you cast this, you may put target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library, which is a good effect. Not just a creature, but non-land permanent, so it can help you at least tempo out a good variety of different types of threats, right? Now, having said that, I think this is mostly a limited card. It's just a little expensive. Even with the emerge cost, I feel like if this had a bigger body or maybe had some sort of evasion, it would be nice. I do like the bounce effect, but at the end of the day, you're still only getting a 5/4 out of this, which I think is going to keep it out of standard. For the hoops you're going to have to jump over to get this out. But I think it is a very good limited card for sure. Next we have Mind's Dilation. This one's a mythic, 2 blue and 5. It's an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So this is a big flashy effect. Feels very mythic, but it's also very expensive at 7. This isn't the type of card you're going to see in standard, because if you can pay 7 for this, there's still a level of inconsistency that it could whiff and start hitting some lands, and then you basically did nothing for at least one turn by casting this. It's just a little too inconsistent. But where this is really going to shine is Commander. This, I feel, is really designed for Commander, and if you're playing a multiplayer game, this really has an opportunity to shine. Let's say I'm playing against 3 opponents. This will trigger for each of my opponents. That's actually kind of awesome. Next we have Cryptbreaker. 1 black, zombie. This is a rare, 1/1. Pay a black and 1 and tap, discard a card. Put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. Tap 3 untap zombies you control, and you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Now, this is a strong card. Maybe one of the most interesting cards we're going to see today, just because I think this is the glue that could start to bring the zombie deck together. If the zombie deck can get there, and we've already had a lot of great pieces in Shadows over Innistrad. We've already seen a lot of great pieces over the last week or so of spoilers. They seem to be coming together. I'm sure we'll see more pieces of this zombie deck, but it feels like it could be competitive, and this card is what's really making me say that. Just the fact that it is obviously not Pack Rat, but has some similarities to Pack Rat, that later in the game, if you just are drawing dead cards or lands, you can convert them into tokens. But on top of that, you're able to discard cards that you could potentially get some value out of. So these are Madness cards, cards that are able to be cast or replayed out of your library, cards like Relentless Dead that we've seen before, just a lot of great zombies, and the fact that you can play a bunch of cheap zombies, get tokens, and draw extra cards just to keep the engine going. This feels really good to me, and at the end of the day, it's also still a creature, so you're not paying for an enchantment. When I first glanced at this, it felt like an enchantment to me, but yeah, it's actually a 1-drop creature, so it can also get in for some early damage, which is interesting. Obviously, it makes it a little more fragile, but at the same time, this is the type of thing you're probably going to play 4 of in this type of deck. So watch out for this one. If the zombie deck can get there, you'll see this in standard. Potentially someday, if the zombie tribe is viable and even modern, this card would no doubt be a part of it. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but as years go on and they print more cards, it's very possible. Now, having said that, fantastic card in Limited as well. You'll be very, very happy to play this in Limited. It'll be fantastic. And in Commander, it's also going to be awesome there, especially in a zombie Commander deck. Next we have Incendiary Flow, a red and 1. This is a sorcery. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die, this turn exile it instead. This is an uncommon. You're going to see a fair amount of these around in a draft. And okay, this isn't Lightning Strike. It's sorcery speed, so okay, it is what it is. But it's still very good. It's going to take out a lot of threats, even some pretty tough threats that we've seen previewed, like Gazella, for example. This will take her out and will actually exile her. So that's very, very important when it comes to somebody trying to maybe pull off a combo with her and Bruna, right? This will see standard play. This will be great for you in Limited, and this will be awesome in Commander as well. Next we have Mirrorwing Dragon. 2 red and 3. This is another mythic. It's a dragon, flying, 4/5. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Mirrorwing Dragon, that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls. that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. This is very interesting to me. This is actually a pretty cool design, I think, because on one hand, I put this down on the board. Maybe I'm playing it with a lot of humans or tokens in a Boros build, for example. I'm able to pump this with a combat trick, and it pumps my entire team. That's kind of awesome. On the flip side, if my opponent wants to get rid of this card, they're going to have something like a clipped wings, because in a lot of situations, if you try to use regular removal on this, it's going to actually remove the rest of their board as well, which is very awkward. So it's a little more difficult to get rid of than a lot of cards. I really like that design. I think that's fun. It doesn't make it indestructible by any means, but it really makes your opponent have to think about how they're going to get rid of this thing, and it's really going to make deck building have to be more creative when it comes to what removal you're going to add. Having said that, if Boros can get there in Standard, I think this could be a top end of a very quick, aggressive Boros deck that's playing with a lot of the white cards we see today, but splashing in some of these new red cards. Having said that, also a great limited card. I mean, paying 5 for a 4/5 flyer, just that alone is economical, so I think it's going to be great there, and another good card for Commander too. Grim Flayer, a black and green. This is another mythic. Human warrior, 2/2 with trample. And whenever this deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on top of your library in any order. And if you have Delirium, it gets +2/+2. So it becomes a 4/4 essentially. This is a card that on the surface feels like, wow, maybe this shouldn't have been mythic. It doesn't feel like super flashy like some of the other cards we just looked at. However, this is a 2-drop with tons of upside. This reminds me a lot of Voice of Resurgence. That was a good example of a mythic 2-drop that just had upside for days. This is doing the same thing. I mean, when you put this much into a card and it's only going to cost 2 to cast, that's actually a pretty big deal. Now, the downside of this card is the fact that it is mythic, because I feel like there's going to be decks that actually are going to want 4 of these things, and I think that could drive the price up of this card. This may be one of the higher ticket cards in the set, assuming it finds a home in the meta. And if it does, look out, because this will go up in price very, very quickly. Now, it's not Jace Verdon's Prodigy going to skyrocket, because it is a dual color card. It's not going to find a home in like every deck in the meta. But if it does find a home, keep an eye on this one. It definitely could have some legs. Even if it's not right now, post-rotation, this thing could show up and actually do some damage. The only thing that's maybe holding it back is the fact that white is so strong right now, but let's face it, black is getting a big push in this set, and green has been strong, is going to continue to be strong. So watch out for this one for sure. Having said that, limited, this is still going to be great for you, and also another good commander card too. Alright, we have Mercurial Geist. This costs a red, a blue, and 2. It's a spirit, 1/3 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +3/+0 until end of turn. First off, we'll talk about Standard. I don't really see it there. Even if the Is It Tempo deck can get there, I don't know if it really wants to play this card. And the reason I say that is it costs 4 for a 1/3 flyer. And the upside is nice for casting instants and sorceries, but you're getting a power boost and not a toughness boost. And there's no trample or anything like that. There is flying, which is nice. It's great evasion, but I'm also afraid that you can just basically wipe this out with a direct damage spell like the one we saw earlier, or it could just attack in and you might be able to chump block it with 1 or 2 flyers to get 3 damage across, and it ends up really doing nothing after you pumped all your work and time into it by casting instants and sorceries. Having said that, I think this is still a very good limited card. In a limited environment, a card like this is much more powerful. You can stand a certain level of variance, and I think this is still okay for that type of gameplay. It's going to be a flyer for you for 4. Not a great flyer, but at least it's a little bit defensive. And then as long as you have some instants and sorceries in your library, you might be able to get across for some damage. Actually, could be pretty decent there. Next we have Mournwillow. Costs a black, a green, and 1. It's a plant skeleton, not a zombie, but a plant skeleton. It's a 3/2 with haste, and when this enters the battlefield, if you have Delirium, creatures with power 2 or less can't block this turn. Nice little perk to it. Again, this is a limited card. You're not going to really see this in Standard or anything. Interesting that they didn't make it a zombie. I feel like it probably could have been, but okay, it's not. And once I get past that, it's still a fine limited card. You'll be happy to play this for 3 and get a 3/2 with haste, and if the effect takes place and you're able to get more damage across, even better. Alright, now for our last card of the day. It's actually a reprint. It's Ride Down. This was originally printed in Khans of Tarkir, so not that long ago. 1 white and a red. It's an instant. Destroy target blocking creature. Creatures that were blocked by that creature this combat gain trample until end of turn. I don't really see this crossing over into the current standard. However, maybe a Boros deck might want to run a 1 of or 2 of this, so who knows, don't count it out yet. But I think this is more of a limited card. And we know from Khans, this is actually a pretty good limited card. If you're in these colors, I wouldn't hesitate to play this. It's a nice little combat trick, helps you get a little damage across. It's actually a very good limited card. So having said that, those are the cards for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another video showcasing what else we've learned about Eldritch Moon. And then on Friday, we'll be back with the first part of the full set review. So until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.